Today we are having a disaster response exercise that is conducted with state, local, and federal agencies, and the Louisiana Army National Guard is participating as a partner along with those agencies to demonstrate to the public that the government is fully capable and prepared to respond to any hurricane that happens in the 2014 hurricane season. The National Guard is preparing this year, as we always do, by making sure that our individuals receive the proper training, that our equipment is properly in place and is maintained, and that we've done the proper coordination along with our partner agencies at the local, state, and federal level so that we can have an integrated response which will maximize the capabilities to protect the citizens and the citizens' property should a hurricane hit Louisiana. It's obviously important every year because the public has to have confidence that their government can respond and take care of any situation that comes along. We've been successful in doing this in the past, and we want to maintain our past success into the future. And so this is a way every year that we can prepare, and as the General stated just briefly earlier, that if we're going to make mistakes, we do it in training so that we can be successful when we have to do it for real. The different stations that are here are integrated search and rescue, where it takes it simulates taking individuals from an affected area, whether they're on land, whether they're stranded on a house, if they have to be moved by boat or by truck, and receiving them, their animals, and then bringing them to what we call a lily pad, which is a place where it's a safe haven for them. They're evaluated, it's documented, and they're moved forward to an evacuation center. We also have interoperability, which are communication exercise, which demonstrate the linkage between the different state agencies and Louisiana Army National Guard, and you can see that through some of the communication suites that are out here as well. I put myself as a Louisiana citizen. I would want to know that my government has the capabilities and is trained and ready to respond to any disaster. It would give me a confidence as a citizen. It would and give me faith in my government and the organizations that are prepared to respond. What I would want to take away from this experience are lessons learned that I get from other state and local agencies and federal agencies that are here to partner with us. They've got a lot of great individuals that are there that are trained and ready, just like the National Guard is. And I think this is a great marketplace of ideas to pass on lessons learned from those agencies to the Guard and vice versa. So I think it's a great training opportunity. It's a way to build relationships as well, because even though it's cloudy today, I say it's blue skies and no storm. If those relationships are built today, they will be maintained if an event ever does happen. That's important as well too.
This is a critical exercise for us as a state. It's a great thing when we have as many local, state, and federal partners here, because it is about teamwork. When we get into these things, it's the entire team that comes forward to take care of our citizens and kind of get them out of harm's way. The mission that we have is real simple: save lives, prevent suffering, and protect property. And so everything that we do is to drive at that end, in that order, in that priority. This morning, you'll see a lot of the exercises going on where we are working with our agency partners, trying to make sure that we understand what the requirements are. My guidance to our team is always, let's try to break it here so we can go back and fix it, so that whenever it happens for real, we're pretty well set.
Today is an organized operation that's going on between the Louisiana National Guard as well as numerous government agencies, from local organizations, state organizations, and federal organizations, so that we're ready whenever the next disaster decides to visit our shores, to respond and to provide support for the community, and make sure that the response is done in a timely manner, in an efficient manner, and that we can do whatever missions are passed down to us to make sure that the population can recover. This particular location, we have a few pieces that are operating at the same time. I know for myself, I'm kind of overseeing two different pieces. One is our boating operations that are taking place in both this pond, and then also the canal that's going into Lake Pontchartrain on our left side. And then in addition, we also have some high water vehicle operations, which are basically our really big trucks that are off in the distance that the bed sits about 5 feet off of the ground, that we're using to also help evacuate, whether it be personal property, actual people themselves, pets, anything that needs to be saved from rising waters or any type of other natural disaster that decides to come our way. We've had a lot of joint work between the Louisiana National Guard. We had representatives from the state police. We've also had the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries on hand, as well as Department of Agriculture and Forestry. It's been a big group effort by a bunch of state, local organizations, as well as the National Guard, to make sure all of the different pieces are working together so that, again, we can be as efficient as possible. This is kind of practice for the real thing, because we know, living in Louisiana, eventually that next hurricane is going to hit our shores. And when that happens, we have to be ready to respond, and respond within a moment's notice. And so what these exercises allow us to do is to practice those skills that we're going to need whenever the real thing hits. We need to know how to operate boats. If another Katrina-type environment happens where the waters are up and the only way that we can get to certain people that need help is via boat, we need people that are able to do that. In the areas where the water's high enough that we can still drive a vehicle in there, it just has to be a big one. We have people that are training on how to do that, how to load people into these vehicles, how to practice for different scenarios, such as how to pull somebody down off of a roof, how to pull somebody out of the water, how to pick a pet into an elevated truck. It's a bunch of different pieces, and this is the practice to make sure that whenever the real thing happens, we're ready, and we're ready to respond quickly. What we're hoping is that the training that happens, that the guys, because the guys that are out here are the ones that are actually going to be doing the rescuing. When the time comes and we need our people to go out and assist the local community, the guys that are walking around here are the ones that are going to do it. So what we're hoping is the skills that they're going to need to be able to use when the real world event happens, that they're ready to do it, because this gives us an opportunity to test them and watch them do it, and if there are some issues, we can fix it now while it's practice, so that whenever the real world comes, they're able to do exactly what they need to do so that we can assist the community.
Conducting lily pad operations, so whenever we have a disaster that happens, we set up the first highest ground possible that's away from the water, and we set up emergency response teams to where we can take in any personnel that are needing assistance, and we run them through and see if they need medical assistance, or if they have pets, then we allow the pets to receive assistance as well, and then push them out to what we call a parish collection point and go from there. It's important due to the fact that whenever a disaster hits, you want some type of first line security, and it not only allows us to track the personnel that are affected by the disaster, but it also allows us to provide security and assistance to the community establishment. During a lily pad operation, what it happens is it's the first highest, or it's the first dry ground whenever a disaster happens, like a flood or something, and we can take in personnel from land, air, or boat, and after we bring them in, we process them through and see if they need medical assistance, and then after that, then we try to make them as comfortable as possible and then send them on their way to the parish collection point. I hope that they understand, the purpose for this and the importance of it, and as always, hope we build from it and learn. That way we can set up better establishments later on.
We're here rehearsing for an all-hazards event in case Louisiana succumbs to another event, be it natural disaster or man-made disaster, etc. But my role here is to serve as a communications liaison. I'm the J6 for Louisiana, which is a communication officer. And what I'm doing is working with the other state agencies and federal partners to ensure that we can be interoperable, that we can share communications, bridge different radio systems and be able to communicate and have a common situational awareness, which will enable us to react quicker and be more responsive to an event which happens, and leverage our assets. Like anything we have, they're limited. So in order for us to be able to communicate and respond quicker, it's going to benefit the people of Louisiana. First of all, the communication devices themselves have gotten better, smaller, easier to use. But the big improvements we've made, particularly since Katrina, is the ability to be interoperable. Regardless of the type of system you bring, if an agency brings one type of radio and another agency brings a different type, we can bridge that and make them communicate together, where in the past we had difficulties doing that. So you had one agency doing its own thing and another one not following along. Now we can bridge all the systems together and make sure we're all on the same page. Well, it's important so that, again, we have limited assets. So this way the commander on the ground can decide what the priority is and where those resources need to go, and do it in a timely and accurate fashion. First of all, I want them to know that there has been a conscious effort on our part to make sure that, first of all, we can communicate effectively, efficiently, and that we all share a common operating picture. We all see the same thing. So, it's not, the left hand and the right hand both know what they're doing. In the past, we've been disjointed, and we're not that way anymore. It's a combined, unified effort between state, local, and federal partners.
We're doing a disaster response exercise, and it's a comprehensive effort. We're from a communications unit, so we're basically making sure that the people have the resources to be able to communicate and talk to each other effectively. But the operation as a whole is to exercise our capability in a contingency or in like a storm environment, which we've seen before, to be able to provide the best response for the state that we possibly can. My part in this is we have certain systems that we maintain that support flexible communications in a contingency, that'll provide internet services, voice services, so that when we've got people on the ground that are responding to the contingency, that we can go ahead and provide them with flexible and comprehensive services to respond to the effort. Over as a veteran of Hurricane Katrina, back then a lot of the systems were in their infancy, and technology just wasn't what it is today. This has become a main focus area for a lot of units like ours, and we've seen vast improvements with the speed and quality of communications, visual aids to actually help commanders with seeing things in real time that before there was somewhat of a lag. So overall, just great leaps in improvement with the types of systems and with the technology that's available. It's very important because as we're able to quickly respond, that may save a life, may get people resources, food where they need it, and that's what we're all about, is making sure that when we have an emergency for the state, that we're there and we're able to provide the best support possible. It helps that the community knows who we are and what we do, so when we roll in, that they have some idea of, we're there to help them and what resources are available in case they need us.
Today, what we're helping to explain to the soldiers is some of the obstacles they're going to run into in an urban search and rescue environment. We're using some of our experience and some of our techniques that we use and teach during our Louisiana boating safety course to instruct the soldiers on how to operate these smaller tiller handle vessels safely, so that they can be a valuable asset rescuing people who are in need of rescue and preventing them from becoming people who need to be rescued themselves. And what we're talking about is making sure that they all have on their emergency ignition lanyard, which is a device that shuts the motor off if the operator was to fall out of the boat, fall overboard, or become incapacitated and fall away from the motor. What this stops is a scenario where the boat would continue to ride around in circles and possibly impact another vessel or impact the driver that had fallen overboard and create another casualty. We're also instructing them on the proper way of wearing a life jacket or a personal flotation device, how to inspect it to make sure that it's in good working order, and also some basic characteristics of these vessels that's specific to them. Because of their small nature, it's important to make sure that a center of gravity is kept in the boat, that there's a good balance, because if you put too many personnel on one side of the vessel versus the other side, you could have a capsizing situation or a submersion or anything like that. Unlike the guys who work in my department, these soldiers have so many other things that they do on a given day during deployment or regular duty their expertise is not in boat handling. So it's important that we come here and other agencies that work in the boating area or the boating environment, that work in that environment all the time, to share the expertise and the knowledge of the things that we see on a given day-to-day basis. Even things that we enforce with the public and things that we just see that we want to tell them, well, you know, you might not be doing this exactly how you should do it, or not the most productive or most safety conscious way. And we'd like to instruct the soldiers so that during the natural disaster and the response, they can be the best asset that they can be. I hope the Guard members and anyone else participating in the operation today understand that the urban search and rescue environment is different than anything that you can prepare for. This is a very controlled environment. We know what everything is. The only variable we have in this whole exercise is the weather. In the event of a natural emergency or a natural disaster and the response, there's so many different variables that can change the way that operations happen. So it's important for the soldiers to understand that you follow certain procedures so that there's something to fall back on. When something unexpected happens, it's important that these soldiers and other personnel know that this is the order that we follow, and there's a reason why we do it, and they can fall back on that when problems arise, and they may not know how to address that problem. They can go up their chain of command and figure out how to resolve the issue.
We're here conducting our part of this exercise in support of the National Guard, GOSEP, Health and Hospitals, all of our partners, and to include our local parish partners. All year we all have our emergency support functions. State Police primary functions are public safety and security, and ESF 10, which is our hazmat control and security piece. Those are our primary functions under the Louisiana Emergency Response Plan. But we also support all the other ESFs and state agencies in their primary functions. And one of our primary partners is Wildlife and Fisheries and the National Guard in their search and rescue missions. And so as part of the larger ESF 13 public safety and security function, that touches just about everything. And we partner really more with the National Guard and Wildlife and Fisheries as much as anybody in that public safety mission. And this is just a great opportunity to exercise the plans that we all work on year long. Well, one of the primary functions we're doing here, we have one of our 2 mobile command posts here. And during any operation, any disaster, any response, communication is key. So a big part of what we're doing today is testing our interoperable communication capability. Make sure that we can talk to all our diverse partners. You know, everybody normally operates on different communications channels, but we have a mutual aid channels that we all go to, and we exercise that today. So communications is a key. And the other, the weather permitting, we have a fairly robust air support unit, and our helicopters, one of our missions in our support plan is to support the wildlife and fisheries agents on the water in their boats with aerial observation to help guide them, direct them to people who might need rescuing. So that's part of our exercise today also. Well, I think General Kerr said it best. We want the general public to be confident that the state agencies and all the other partners at all levels of government understand the critical role we play in helping to keep them safe.
We were simulating just now was during a disaster, maybe a hurricane or any type of natural disaster, is simulating a lily pad operations. Lily pads are nothing more than collection points that we utilize for aviation assets to, after rescuing people that are in distress or either isolated, we bring them to those points where those actual civilians or whatnot can be triaged for higher level of care as needed. We do this constantly training-wise. This event is a combination event where we actually bring all the agencies together so everybody knows what everybody else is doing, so we have interoperability as far as all the assets that we can, leverage to help the citizens of Louisiana. But this is very important during Katrina. Our unit, almost over 10,000 people we actually rescued, brought to lily pads that this is simulating right here. So it's something that we have to prepare for, and we're ready by training constantly for it.
is really important. And the thing is we have to, we got to look at it from the perspective of in the air, you can get to locations that are not accessible by high-wheel vehicles, boats or whatnot, and we just demonstrated hoist operations. So the majority of our rescues will be done where we're actually landing on. We could actually put a wheel on a roof or whatnot, but if there is a lot of debris or there's places where you can't access, what we'll do is we'll use the hoist operation where we can actually drop a person down and lift them up to safety. That Louisiana, between the aircraft, we have 2 Army Aviation Support facilities, plus we have emergency aircraft that we can call in from other states. Just want the people in Louisiana to realize that once something happens, a disaster happens, and you're isolated, we do have the assets to actually come in, take those, get you out and bring you out of harm's way and get you to a safe location. In aviation, what we do in a disaster like a Katrina type event, Isaac or whatnot, we usually typically get called in to rescue isolated personnel, civilians, or anybody basically. Even you got wildlife and stuff like that. But what that simulated was actually after a rescue of getting those civilians out of an isolated area and bringing them to a collection point. A lily pad that we utilize is nothing more than a collection point where we have medical assets and transportation. We have lily pads throughout the state, and we can actually move them and designate them as needed. But it's basically getting them to a point where they can actually get moved to higher level of care as needed. So that was simulating taking 5 isolated individuals, bring them to a lily pad. They will be triaged by medical and then processed. And aviation will constantly go out there and keep doing that throughout the day. Like for Katrina, it was for weeks that we actually conducted these type of operations. It's ongoing until mission complete, so to speak. Okay, there's a couple of different ways that we can rescue isolated personnel. One of them is typically we like to land in an area because we can load easily, it's safer, but problem is during a disaster you might have debris that's actually dangerous. As you notice with the rota system, you could have debris flying up to 100 miles an hour and it could actually injure somebody, or it could actually be a dangerous situation for the aircraft itself. So what we can utilize is a hoist operation where we can actually lower one person down, rescue that individual, keep the wind, the debris out of the way. The problem with that rescue is it takes a lot longer, and it's usually a one at a time type situation as opposed to possibly loading 10 and 15 people at one time. So that's what we were simulating, the ability to do that.
We were invited as a partner for the Department of Agriculture and Forestry, and we are part of a group that has been partnering with them for animal search and rescue and animal support for disasters. Today we have LSART. ASPCA is our national partner who is also here. We have St. Charles Animal Control, and we also have animals from St. John Parish Animal Control. And so what we've been practicing is the coordination between ASAR, Animal Search and Rescue, and Human Search and Rescue. So we know that Wildlife and Fisheries is in charge of Human Search and Rescue, and that the Guard is assisting Wildlife and Fisheries. Well, what we're doing is assisting in the animal part. This morning we did a just-in-time training for the Guard to talk about how to handle pets and people safer. So we gave them a lot of information about how to do this in a safer way. One of the things we want to make sure of is that all the pets are in carriers and that they're handled safely on the boats. They know and we know that people and pets, wherever people are, there are going to be pets attached. And so if you're not prepared for them, our biggest focus is to make sure that they're prepared enough so they can decrease the chance of people getting bit, decrease the chance of responders getting bit, and make sure that we coordinate people getting out with their pets. We know that if they won't take their pets, they won't leave. We also know that if the pets are left behind, they're going to put themselves in harm's way to get back to get their pets out. We know from Katrina why that's important. We know that a lot of people didn't leave because of their pets, and we know that a lot of people in other disasters will go back to try to get their pets out. So if we can get them out together, it's going to be safer for the responders, safer for the community, and safer for the pets, obviously.
We have a time period of 2 hours before the flight is to take off from here, that we have to have the patients here so that they can be processed, so to speak, to be made air ready and all.
But the goal is just to understand what capabilities we truly have as, the U.S., how we can function, and move the massive amount of patients in the shortest amount of time.
Our role from the governor's office is we're the management organization of any type of disaster. We manage all the state agencies. We work with the locals through our web EOC system that we've created here in the state of Louisiana.
communicate and direct state agencies in a response. Very important, as I just mentioned, with the locals so that they know when they should ask for that asset or whatever they may need on a local level, is for us to be able to work together and actually see how that response would be handled. If they should call in for additional search and rescue, would it be Wildlife and Fisheries and the Army National Guard deployed? And then to see what kind of assets they bring, because there's a lot of logistics issues when you're talking about coming to the aid to a parish or a local municipality. I remember clearly during Isaac when we had a dam that was going to break, and I sent 300 buses to a small community. So you begin to see the picture of logistics. You know, where do you park them while you're ready, while you're getting ready to move people? So you can see managing that and working with the locals is a key. And it's interesting because you really don't see us that much on the front line. Every day of the week we're doing a training or a planning exercise for some sort of disaster. And then there's thousands of first responders in a training exercises that we do across the state. A lot of it's done in classroom settings, but it's better to know what's going to happen when you make that request from us at the state level, and then to have that partnership and to know who the people are and the players are. That's key to a success of recovery, being able to get in there and do the response. Especially this time of the year. I mean, I know it's early and we've come out of the winter season, but now's the time to have a game plan, from an individual to a business. Being prepared to know what you might need in case there is a hurricane. That's kind of what this exercise is. But we can take this exercise and roll it over into any type of disaster. Certainly there may be search and rescue, there may be security issues. So it's good that we're doing this today. And again, I would tell people, get a game plan.